hello, football and basketball fans. Welcome to the NFL version of Proline. I'm John Creighton in Las Vegas, joined by Vegas experts Harvard Barnard and Zach Simony. We'll take a look at a couple of NFL games. Also got some early season college basketball tips to bring for you. And let's start off with Harvard. You know, you're on a terrific run with these 10-star plays, these high rollers on the weekends. 18 and 6, 75% for the NFL season. Plus with these 3 for the money packages, a sizzling 42 and 24. Plus you got college basketball going now.
Well, actually, college and the NBA right now. I started off last night with a college game and got the cash by half a point, you know, and that's what it's going to come down to once in a while. So you do got to shop numbers. In my 888 NBA club, 3-0 in that, and we'll be adding a little bit more to that. But you know, you start a little bit slow, but you don't want to start too slow, and you certainly don't want to wait because the lines are going to be as soft as you've ever seen. A lot of the handicapping that the odds makers do is based on last year's players, last year's power ratings, and they know just about as much as I do. So while they'll have to do something like, let's say there's 60 games this Saturday in college basketball, I only have to pick one of them. So I can find one that they missed the line on completely. So what you want to do is daily, come to the Jim Feist website, click over there to Harvard and see what I have. Make money while you sleep. That's what I always say. You know, an old friend of mine, he told me, I said, how come you're so rich? He says, well, I own a bank and he gets interest all night, and he owns some oil wells and they pump all night. And he says the secret to it, anything you do is make money while you sleep. Now, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is invest in it, and that's what I want you to do. As far as a tip, I got a very good tip that it applies to the college. It's pretty much a game changer with the rules, where they're really calling a lot of different types of situations, what's going to result in a lot more fouls. So early in the season, my tip is this: make sure your team can shoot free throws. That's number one. But number two, if you want to look at a conference that is notoriously great at shooting free throws, it's going to be the MAC. The MAC, they have these guys that are all these great shooting guards. Half the point guards come from coaches' kids, and if you're a coach's kid, you're going to learn how to shoot free throws. You're not just going to go out on the playground and just shoot. You're going to learn the basics of that thing. If you want to also go against somebody, you can take a team like Kentucky. These guys, their players are so good, but they didn't get good by just going out there and practicing free throws. I think they could miss a lot down the stretch. So look for teams that can shoot free throws, and then come to jimfeist.com and check over at Harvard every day, especially for that 888 NBA club that I have.
All right, and Zach, on Saturday you gave me Texas Arlington. I thank you for that play. It was against
Fordham.
Fordham Rams. A long road trip for them. A no-name school, with all due respect to Texas Arlington fans out there. Plus your 22-11 NBA run. Your football records are also on the screen. How are you looking at these early season games?
Yeah, for college basketball, it's my favorite time of year right now. It's from now until about January 5th when the conference play begins. It's pretty much the only sport, or the only stretch of a sport, that I like to do high volume plays. So right now, I think I'm 6-4, 5-4, something like that in college basketball, but that'll change here shortly. NBA 22-11, NFL 25-14, college football 35-22. Handicapping tips for college basketball. It's basically just like Hollis said. You've got to do your handicapping as far as the players. You cannot fall into the hype of the freshman All-American and the top 100 recruits, because those guys usually struggle early. When they get better is in the middle of conference play. You've got to look for the graduate transfers. You know, there's so many graduate transfers out there. Auburn has one, and Tyler Harris played well at Providence. He's over there now. Oregon has one in Dylan Ennis that was point guard for Villanova for all those years. So those guys are going to be catalysts right off the bat. And then you've got regular transfers that had to sit out for a full year, and now they're eligible to play. So those guys that played at other schools for 2 years, and now that they're eligible, those guys are going to be difference makers in lineups versus new recruits coming in that are going to struggle and have their minutes reduced because of sporadic play. But as far as point spread value, you just have to basically what I do, I just look at what teams have done in the years past, and you look for the value. That's all you can do, really. So you base it on that and plug forward, because in conference play, it's going to really be nitty-gritty again.
All right, you can find Zach's and Harvard's plays in basketball, football at jimfeist.com. posting every day if you want to get some winners and get them early in the season before the odds makers catch up. Let's get to some NFL action on Sunday. You get the Cincinnati Bengals heading out west to Arizona. Big marquee game here, non-conference game on Sunday. Arizona 3.5-point favorite, the total of 47. And the Bengals have all these kind of great numbers across the board, 8-1 straight up, 7-1 against the spread. And the stats on the defensive side of the ball and offense so good. On the other hand, we watched them on Monday night at home with an undefeated record. And boy, did they look bumbling and out of sync. It was a very disappointing performance. So now the shot at having the number 1 or number 2 seed in the AFC, which is also important, now that's in jeopardy after blowing a game at home that they were big favorites in and should have won. And you have to wonder, too, about maybe the confidence factor, too, with this team. So, Harvard, how do you look at the Bengals? Just a bump in the road, and now they're going on the road to face a good team to get their mojo back, or with their confidence shaken a bit?
Well, there's a lot of home associations that they don't just put up one speed bump. A lot of them put up one and then another one right behind it, another speed bump, just to really slow you down. And I think that's what Cincinnati is going to find. Yes, they're a good team. No one has to panic. And they certainly should not have gotten booed last night by their fans. I played Houston last night, but I'm not sure why everybody played so poorly, on Cincinnati's team. Yeah, I won, but I'm not even sure how I won or why I won. Usually I know why I won and all that stuff, but I don't want to sound like an idiot. But Houston, yes, I knew that they would play well. They're still in the hunt. Watt, I thought that he would get it going, and I like the fact that, their quarterback, there is no controversy now that Ryan Mallett. So, I played a lot of that stuff. Cincinnati's defense is fantastic. They're like in the top 10, between 5 and 10 in against the run, against the pass, points allowed. Their offense, though, they've only scored 19 points in their last 3 games. What's with that? They're averaging 19 points a game. Dalton hasn't looked very good. I think there's got to be some breakdown of the offensive line. He suffered 14 sacks during this year, 5 interceptions. He had 3 sacks last night against Houston. No touchdowns. They only converted 4 of 14 on third down plays. Let's move over to Arizona. I would think if this was the first game of the year and Cincinnati wasn't coming at 8-1 and it's just 2 teams, there's no way Arizona should just be 3.5-point favorite. They should be a lot more. So naturally, I'm leaning towards laying the 3.5. Arizona, very comfortable. Boy, are they relaxed now. They're 3 games up in the NFC West. In their offense, they're 4th in passing, 8th in rushing, 2nd in points, scoring 33 points per game. Their defense, man, they complement their offense. They're 3rd in yards allowed, 4th against the run, 11th against points allowed. Larry Fitzgerald, he looks like he's renewed and re-energized. He's running great patterns. And I'll tell you another thing that I looked at. They set some records up there against Seattle this last weekend. The 39 points is the most points allowed in 5 years to a visiting team there. And they're first to have 350 yards passing and 100 yards rushing ever. So the Cards are just playing better right now. Sometimes I don't want to look at who's the better team. And I certainly don't want to say who's going to go the farthest or who's the better team so far in the first 9 games. But who is playing better right now? And that's all we have to do is who's playing better right now. Throughout everything else, Arizona's playing much better than Cincinnati is right now. I'm laying the 3.5 out in the desert.
That's a good point with the Cincinnati offensive struggles. It wasn't just Monday night. They haven't scored a lot of points of late, too. Now, if you look at technical trends, Cincinnati, fantastic bounce-back team, 9-3 against the spread after a loss. When they face a good team, that is on the road, a team with a winning home record, they're 25-10 against the spread. If you like to play totals, they're 8-3 under the total on the road. However, while there are some worries with the Bengals, there seems to be no worries with Arizona, 7-2 straight up, 6-3 against the spread. What a performance on Sunday night, going to Seattle, a place that was sort of their house of horrors. And they were spectacular, 451 yards against that great Seattle defense. Carson Palmer, they weren't conservative. He was winging it when he had to. 363 total yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Larry Fitzgerald, a monster game, very impressive win as a road dog. And their numbers, too, are sizzling, 23-10 spread run. So, Zach, is it too early to say that this is the team to beat in the NFC?
Well, I don't want to go that far as the team to beat. I think they still have some issues that they need to work on, the Arizona Cardinals, but Cincinnati has a whole new slew of issues that I'm not sure they're going to be able to recover from traveling on the road to Arizona after that type of loss. You had a lot of concerned faces. Even Marvin Lewis looked a little bit concerned on the sidelines, and then the players' body language just looked a little bit demoralized of that loss against the Houston Texans, a game that you would not expect them to lose as 12-point favorites. But that was just the type of week it was in the NFL. There was a lot of underdogs winning outright, and even in college football with Oregon. But I touched on this earlier in the year. I think I've been mentioning it on a couple of our shows here. The value odds makers have shifted with the Arizona Cardinals and the Carolina Panthers. Before this year, they hardly were even favored at home. I wrote a column. They were favored by 4.5 points or more just once under the Carson Palmer era when they were 12-3. Until this year, they finally started to catch on. They were 7-point favorites against St. Louis, 7.5-point favorites against the 49ers, 8-point favorites against the Baltimore Ravens. But here, that value shifted back down, similar to the Carolina Panthers, who were favored by just 3 points or more in all their games until that matchup a few weeks ago against the Indianapolis Colts, when they were 7.5-point favorites, and they came back down the past few weeks against Green Bay, etc. But I think anytime the odds makers keep setting these lines on the Cardinals and Panthers on this 3.5-point or under 4 range, you have to take the Arizona Cardinals. They're just too good at home. I think they're 14-3 or something like that under Carson Palmer at home, and Bruce Arians has that offense clicking again, which is something I didn't see 2 to 3 weeks ago. So they've worked through their problems the past couple of weeks while the Bengals are going into their problems. Like you said, Larry Fitzgerald, he's resurrected a little bit, even though John Brown's backpedaled. Now Michael Floyd stepping up. You got Andre Ellington back in the fold. And then, of course, Chris Johnson's been decent enough. So, and let's not forget about their acquisition. You talk about Arizona Cardinals don't get enough credit for just bringing in players. They took a flyer on Chris Johnson. They took a flyer on Dwight Freeney. After the first month of the season, he's applying pressure, getting after Russell Wilson, a guy that didn't even play football last year. So they've taken a flyer on a few players that are paying off. And I think right now you just have to back the Cardinals just based on what we've seen, their home record under Carson Palmer and Bruce Arians.
Yeah, I agree with the body language you mentioned on the shell-shock coaching staff for Cincinnati and some of the body language of the players. That was a win that I'm going to put an asterisk, a loss that I'm going to put an asterisk next to and say might be a lot of more problems with the Bengals than that overall sizzling record. In addition, the schedule really isn't easy for them. They got some difficult games. They got to play the great defense of the Rams. They got to play this game on the road. They got the Steelers at home, and they got that 2-game West Coast trip at San Francisco, at Denver, back-to-back, and then a home game against Baltimore. You never know which Ravens team is going to show up. So there is a chance this team could slip with a losing streak to the 3rd or 4th seed, and that would be catastrophic after starting 8-0. Hey, we just saw Denver start the season 8-0 and then lose 2 in a row. Maybe it could happen to Cincinnati here. Another thing that bothered me with the Bengals was the coaching staff decision. You saw late in that game, they're down 10-6. They have the ball, their own 10-yard line, 3rd and 17. Houston, just a couple minutes to go in the game. Houston was about to slam the door. They got a 3rd and 17 completion from Carson, who's the Bengals quarterback? Dalton.
Yep.
And they had the momentum. The crowd is behind them, and they moved to like the 45-yard line of the Texans. And there's a minute 40 to go, and I'm watching this thinking, this Houston defense is reeling. You got them on their heels. J.J. Watt is on the sideline sucking oxygen. Keep going with the no huddle. They called a timeout. Now, granted, they had 3 timeouts at that moment, so it wasn't like they were blowing timeouts or wasting them. But I'm looking at the situation. You've got the defense on its heel and clearly tired out. Take advantage. Push it a little bit. They didn't. Everybody rested. They came back from the timeout, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
They went very quickly went out. So it's another thing about Cincinnati that has been a disaster in these January playoff games is we've always questioned the coaching staff. And I'm seeing it again despite this, a lot of the great talent that they have. So I do have some serious question marks with this team. No question marks with Arizona. I think they're extremely well coached. The stats back it, and the spread trends back it. And I'm with you guys. I'll make it a 3-0 sweep with Arizona in this one. A very difficult spot.
And one other thing, let me add, while Cincinnati was getting their brains beat out yesterday, Arizona had the day off. He gave the entire team the day off. So look at this. Arizona is getting a day off. Cincinnati is losing. They're on a short week. Now they got to pack up and they have to travel. And I mean, that's like a double kiss of death. So I just wanted to add that. You know, it's so much mental in this for the players. I think that's really going to be a deciding factor.
Yeah, very tough situational spot for Cincinnati.